One of the things that I got woken up to recently was even though I've got hundreds of thousands of miles on two-wheeled motorcycles, when it came to getting on the Spyder, it was like I was a new rider all over again. And it didn't hit me right off. I didn't seem to have a problem with the ST. I got used to it. I was amazed at how different it is compared to the two-wheelers. With two-wheelers, all you do is give a little shove on one handlebar and you go in the same direction. But with this, you really gotta turn it completely in the other direction. And the other fun thing is, I did, as many have mentioned, they just sometimes grab for that front brake, but it's not there. And I had to figure out that there's a problem. And every time I tried to stop normally, it wasn't that big a deal. I found myself still giving it gas, because when you grab for the front brake, you roll off the gas when you go for the front brake. And with the Spyder, no front brake means you don't have to roll off the gas. The problem is, when you're braking, if you don't roll off the gas, you'll keep going. And I had to teach myself by going to empty streets or to parking lots and just practice. And I found myself sometimes when I was stopping really hard, the front end would shudder, and I was gripping it harder than I should. So now when I stop, as you can see, I'm in a way trying to reach for that imaginary brake lever. And I also teach myself to put my foot on the brake pad. A lot of motorcycles, you had a foot peg and you could just lift your toe up and put it on the pedal. But Spyders, they have foot pegs, but there's still some lifting of the foot in order to get your foot on the brake pedal. I've seen a few, only a couple, where they put the extended big bike parts brake pad on and they only touch the outer edge like that. And they're actually not, they're bending the brake pedal, the head of the brake pedal. And if you push down real hard, it might not allow you to brake completely. So if you're gonna get that extended pad, you need to make sure that you really are learning how to apply the brakes. You can get a brake lever for these things, but they're not cheap. And you really have to have a reason, because these brakes are fantastic. And once I get out to an empty street here, I'll be able to demonstrate how hard you can brake and it won't shudder. So here you go is one incident where literally I had to stop. And when I went on the ST, it wasn't that bad. I had a problem giving it gas while I'm braking, but I didn't have the shudder. But on the RT, I did notice the shudder, and I couldn't figure out what was wrong. I've had 5 different Goldwings, so I'm used to a very big engine. And so the reason I bumped up from the ST is the small engine wasn't working for me. I also followed advice from others about Elka shocks, and it just made it for a harsher ride. I liked a bit more cushiony. So I got the RT, and you ride on it and you sit on it about the same way as you do a Goldwing. That's kind of why I got it. But it's higher up. Your center of gravity is a lot higher up. And when I went round corners, I know it won't lift, I know it won't roll over, but darned if it felt like it was going to. And I just couldn't make it work. I followed other Spyder owners, and it was no problem because they did not really go hot around corners. It was a group, and they tried to make it easy for everybody. But when I followed my Goldwing friends, I found myself being a real pain in the ass because I just wasn't going as fast as they wanted to go. And it really bothered me. And I did a 380 odd mile ride with them, and I was just slowing them down, and I hated it. And so I said, you know, I really don't think this RT is working. And then I saw these Magma Red F3s, and I'm like, okay, I know what the solution is. And I decided to trade up. Now, I put some stuff on that RT. I had a wrap, I had a custom Corbin seat, I had lights, I had all kinds of bells and whistles. And I gave it all up because it just wasn't enjoyable. So I'm gonna try and pick a parking lot. There's quite a few of them here that I can choose from. Nice, quiet, empty parking lot. When I see lights, that means that there's a business running, but when I don't see lights, it means like there's nobody home. So I'm gonna find myself a little quiet area. So when I get up to 30 miles an hour, it's amazing how fast you can stop. Without shuddering, without making the bike go shudder. I mean, it really did. When I was doing it, it's amazing how the bike just shuddered, and I don't do it now because I got out and practiced. I taught myself how to ride a bike all over again. Now at the moment it's not playing any music, but I just put the joystick up, and now it is. The difference between the 2021's infotainment system and the 2018 I had is I had to wait for the system to boot up. I had to wait for the phone to go dark and activate BRP Connect, and then I could get music playing. You cannot really get music playing while you're moving. You can open up the app, and if something was playing, you can actually press the joystick in and start music playing. But if you want to activate a playlist or something, you have to be dead stopped. The difference is with the 2021 is whatever music was playing, sometimes it'll just start playing, and most of the time I hit the joystick and it's like it was paused. And now I've got the BRP Connect up, and I use Genius. And one of the things I've learned just by sitting in the garage and playing with it, I can see that there's one of those little boxes. One of them is the magnifying glass, and it's a light blue. I know that I can push the joystick in, and I can choose someplace, any place, and I don't really have to see or read it. I can just get it going. Now, if I'm on a ride and I've got a route, I can push the joystick down, push the joystick over to the magnifying glass, and choose the points of interest. And while I have to look a little sideways because I've got a camera. But if I pick a gas station I like, I can add it to to my route. It's a destination. So basically, I don't really need to read it good enough to know exactly what it says, because I already know what the icons and what the meanings are. I've learned it enough to know what I'm looking at without really reading it. This is where a lot of people live in their RVs, and there are a lot of them. If I push the joystick in and hold, I get out of the that app. I can move to another app. Rever used to look like it does when you open it on the phone, but it's changed. And there's no more record button. And that's basically what I used it for, was to record my ride. If you push the joystick up, you get a bar. And I have thought about a workaround from no record button, is if I put a favorite in that just takes me to my local gas station. When I activate it, it starts recording the trip. And then I can just go wherever I want. It'll just keep telling me how to get to the gas station. The other problem with Rever is if you're at home and you put together a route, you better make sure the starting point is where you're going to meet friends, or if you're just going to leave and go on a ride by yourself, fine. But if you're going to meet friends someplace and then activate the route, it's going to take you to that first starting point, which is where you created the route from. So think about it and practice. If anybody's interested, the building on the left is Google headquarters. And yes, I'm keeping my eyes on the road, but that's Google headquarters. And almost every building that you've been seeing me driving around is Google. Google something. Google something. Now, I think one other thing I want to talk about is cornering. It's really different from two-wheel riding. And what I have found is, as a beginner, it's going to hurt. You're going to use both hands. You're going to pull with one grip and push with the other. and you're going to have aching shoulders. But just means you're going to have to get back on the bike and ride it some more, which to me sounds like a fun idea. So when I go to turn, I'm going to get into a parking lot here. Hope their cameras don't mind. But I lean into the turn. I pull a bit with the inside, and I push with the outside. And if you're on sweeping corners, you don't have to be so drastic. But when you're going around corners like that, you've also got to watch out for the pine needles. They're slippery. But it's fun to practice, fun to get into a parking lot and just see if you can, turn and it gets easier. The one main point is the fact that the more you work with something, it's like doing math problems. If you're doing math problems from school, they don't just give you one to do, they give you a whole bunch. And the more you do them, the easier it gets. So practice. And I found that even though I've got over 500,000 miles on two wheels, with Spyders, even though I've got 45,000 miles or so on Spyders, I'm still a bit of a newbie. And it's going to take a few more miles before I really get the hang of it. I've only got 3,400 miles on this thing, and I'm loving it. One of the other features is dash radio. That can be activated while you're moving. And I mean, I'm mixing everything up because I try and rehearse what I'm going to talk about, but then I get on the bike and I totally forget exactly what I'm going to talk about. So I'm just what I used to do on Goldwing. I'm just winging it. But dash radio can be used while you're moving. The one problem with dash radio, and even the radio that's in Apple Music, is it requires cell service. And I know I live out in California where I should have nothing but cell service, but believe it or not, I can go into the Santa Cruz Mountains, I can go in the Oakland Hills, and I can go in the Sierra Nevada Mountains and not have any service. You're going to get a good look at one of the new Google buildings. It's going to be a big tent, although if they continue to work from home, they're not going to need it. So what I'm trying to get at is you can't just park it in the garage and take it out once or twice a month. You've got to take it out and ride it every chance you get. Because the more you use it, the easier it really gets.